Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. We want to say thank you for joining us for this New Horizons webinar with title How to Stop Your Cloud Security Nightmare. I am Miroslav Kucka and I am owner and GM of New Horizons Prague. We are delivering world-class training and exam experiences for our clients in both Czech Republic and Slovakia. Who is New Horizons? New Horizons is the largest international network of more than 300 training centers in more than 770 countries. We are providing more trainings in more guaranteed to run dates in more locations worldwide with flexible and innovative learning methods. For more information, if you're interested in, please contact me directly to our contact email marketing@newhorizons.cz or call me to our contact phone number, or visit our web pages and to learn how we can collaborate together. This webinar is going to be presented by one of New Horizons' leading security instructor, Boris Goncharov. Welcome, Boris.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
And feel in good mood being in virtual classroom, delivering this excellent subject via webinar for students or guys, clients from both Czech Republic and Slovakia.
With my pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Regarding today's agenda, it is quite simple. There are 2 points. First, cloud security and cloud security nightmare. How to deal with this? I think that US cloud security professional and enthusiast can present and discuss this point with those who attend this webinar, and I hope that you can create some value for all. And the second point is Boris will discuss or present what is the value of being CCSP certified and how to be prepared for passing this certification. CCSP is a brand new certified cloud security professional certification, and it is very attractive for these worlds of cloud. Okay. With that being said, let's go on, and I would like to pass to Boris to let you, Boris, say what you is going to present today. Boris?
Yeah, thank you, Miroslav, for your introduction. Well, as we're going to talk about the cloud security specifically, and what kind of problems we see in cloud security and how we can deal with this. So I'm just would like to load my slides and start discussing that. I call this cloud nightmares because regardless of the fact that we will be using cloud computing for a while, we still have some really big issues with the cloud computing and the main providers. And many organizations are experiencing these problems very often. So, well, to respond to this, basically, people are starting to kind of feel insecure in the clouds, and they feel that they are uncertain whether the cloud provider can give them enough reliability or accountability for what his security is and how this cloud service is protected and whether it's protected properly or not. So basically, I'm going to go through some review of the recent high-profile type of incidents to see actually what's going on around us, what happens with the cloud providers, and how we can, of course, address these main concerns, main risks related to cloud computing, and of course, then we will be discussing the cloud security certified professional certification, how this can help us to make this more easily for our organizations. So I call cloud failure, and that's very kind of a more brutal way to describe it, but this is exactly this moment when the shit hits the fan, and that's the moment in which sometimes you very heavily depend on the cloud computing. You start to experience this kind of huge problems. You will not be able to deliver your services, or you have problem with your vendors or customers, whatever. basically your business, if it depends on cloud computing, can really stop for a certain period of time. So basically, that's really interesting to discuss now. What can happen really in the world of cloud computing, and what are the high-profile type of incidents that you've been seeing in the recent time? So let me start with the most recent one, by the way. This actually is everywhere in the news. Not Petya ransomware. Honestly speaking, that's really not the classic type of malware, of ransomware, because it's actually about having this malware destroying your capability to use your computer system, preventing you from using your computer system. Although it demands $300 in bitcoins to unscramble the data, the mechanism that is actually being used to collect this money for victim in exchange of description keys, it's quickly disintegrated. Well, despite the slick programming behind the fast-spreading malware, like this one, the NotPetya, well, it's not really like a pocketing tool, like WannaCry, basically. This exploded and still is on the wild, but the problem with this is that actually the main objective of this malware is the code was built to destroy, actually, not to extort people, not to extort data, or not to extort users of computer systems. So basically, even if you pay for the ransom, your system still will be unavailable. You should not be able to use that system. So if this, let's say, happens to you, don't pay the ransom, because you will not be able to rectify the problem, and you'll still be having a brick computer system here. So Petya is using the same exploit as WannaCry. After NSA revelations, as internal blue SMB exploit, and I think this will actually cycle for a long period of time. If this is not being used now, tomorrow maybe it will be something else. So basically, patch your systems, try to actually secure them. Otherwise, you will be exposed. But the problem with this is that not only companies, small companies are suffering from this, also Maersk, for instance, and some other big profile companies been suffering from this malware, especially in some countries like Ukraine, Russia, and some other countries as well. I move on to the next one, which was, again, very recently, well, actually last year, to be honest with you. That's a Japanese hieroglyph meaning Mirai. Mirai means, in direct translation, means the future. So Mirai botnet was really interesting thing that happened. Actually, this botnet actually broke sort of the internet. This actual graphic from North simulation, North visualization of the network attacks. You see the amount of traffic forwarded to US, basically. So the DIN provider, the DNS provider, DIN, was overwhelmed with all this traffic, and whoever was using DIN provider was unable to access their domains, and literally this blocked users from accessing these pages. What is interesting about this kind of what is interesting about this attack was that IoT devices were being utilized. At least 1/3 of the zombies used for this distributed denial of service attack were actually hacked IoT devices like TV sets, washing machines, refrigerators, CCTV cameras, DVRs. It was actually very interesting to see how IoT for the first time was used as a weapon against this kind of a high-profile infrastructure. Of course, this is not cloud provider in that sense, but cloud providers were depending on that provider in order to run their services. And in this case, the user of that cloud service is, of course, being affected by this attack. And so was actually, I think that will be the future of distributed denial of services anyway. The next one, it started very interestingly. This Amazon AWS services. Amazon is the biggest cloud hosting provider on the planet. So currently, there are a lot of companies like Netflix, Yahoo. So a lot of big companies are using Amazon cloud services. And this is a Twitter message from a user, and they say, throw your stuff in the cloud. The cloud never goes down, they say. Well, it appears that actually the cloud can really fail and stop working. So these are the actual tweets coming from Amazon when this happened. This actually happened quite recently, within that year. So S3 buckets, US East Coast data centers region was completely blocked from running, and thus affecting thousands of companies using this AWS services. The interesting thing is that half of the internet actually were blocked because of this, because Amazon is a mastodon. It's a gigantic service provider, cloud service provider. And if this node is not working, any other services that is hosted on their websites was not, that their infrastructure is not working as well. So they publish some information about this, that they know what happened really, and they see that continue to experience the problem. So it was interesting to understand what actually was the causing that really interesting problem. And they also published this as well. This is actual statement from Amazon saying that the reason for this downtime, this failure, is a human error, believe it or not. So you see, the person of their team actually was actually executing commands by using a playbook, of course, and he tended to remove small number of servers for some maintenance task of S3 subsystems. But unfortunately, as you can see here, he provided the wrong input command and entered incorrectly a larger set of servers, and then actually started the chain reaction, and a lot of other servers were affected automatically because this one that were being shut off were actually having configuration data about other servers and so on and so forth, and a lot of actually were affected, and immediately, not immediately, but in a very short period of time, almost half of the internet just stopped working because of a simple human error, which is astonishing when we talk about cloud computing right now. It wasn't a hack to something else. Well, speaking of hacking, that's a really, really high-profile case here. 1 billion of Yahoo attacks, and afterwards, another 500 million. This is the largest, so far, the largest compromise of personal data in a human history, basically. Tremendously big consequences out of this. Of course, this deserves triple facepalm, because not even a double facepalm can explain how much these people failed in securing user and consumer data. This is astonishing. This is absolutely outrageous. Maybe somebody explains that Yahoo was not really good in security because they were being under sale with Verizon, but still, so many users were affected because they had a poor security in place. So this is actually an authentic message coming from Yahoo, describing this problem, describing what happened really, what kind of data were actually being leaked. Please take a note here, guys. I mean, that's really, really interesting to have a look at, because what they say here basically is that, well, you see, we have this MD5 algorithm used. Sorry, just a second. Do you see my screen, Miroslav? I don't see. Second.
I can see only blank page.
Yeah, something happened here with the slide. Just a second. I will restart.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a second. Well, you see, it happens. Things happen. Okay. So basically, what I say here is that usernames, email addresses, telephone numbers, date of birth, hash passwords. Note here, MD5 was used. 128-bit hashing algorithm that should not be used for that. And encrypted and unencrypted security question answer. Now, if you want to use that information, by the way, it's published, of course, in a hacker website. You can download the entire database. It's kind of a very big one. So Yahoo accounts been completely compromised, basically, and they've been used for other purposes, of course, and to spread more infections. Now, this actually facilitates even other attacks, basically. So if somebody is compromised and his account is published into the cloud, in a hacker website, this can be used for other attacks, of course, and social engineering and facilitating different types of malware. So they say payment card was not being leaked, but because it was a different system. But the reality was that actually this is a massive breach. Another interesting example of cloud computing service failure is this company here. It's called CodeSpaces, one of the leading, actually, code storage kind of a service provider. So I think we'd like to draw your attention to this statement here: fast, reliable, and secure. Well, if you look at the list of the main customers of this company, we used to be the customers of that company: Oracle, Macy's, Ricoh, Bosch, Typeco, high-profile companies basically using that kind of a services. Well, they probably feel sorry about this, because look at what happened. Hack and bankruptcy happened with that company, which is a very interesting case, by the way. It has to be very well examined. So listen here. This is the official statement of CodeSpaces. So they say 2015, 17th June 2014, they receive a DDoS attack, which is kind of a normal, okay? But it appears that this was actually just the beginning, because they realized that some unauthorized person was having access to the Amazon EC2 control panel and have left some number of messages for extorting a large amount of fee in order to resolve the DDoS. Well, they realized basically at that moment that their control panel Amazon account was being hacked and controlled by an unauthorized person. Basically, that means that this person has control of all the virtual machines in that hosting environment, and maybe he doesn't have direct access to the virtual machine because of the encryption key is not being there. But at the end, they realized that they lost completely control over that control panel. They tried to regain control. Eventually they did it. But what the attacker did, he managed to delete the data, backups, machine configuration, offsite backups were completely lost. And this company actually was bankrupted, of course, and went into a history. But that's a good example of what happens if you have poor defenses really in place. And this is a high-profile cloud service provider. Another interesting example is NearOnix. NearOnix, a leading cloud storage as a service kind of a provider, really. So enterprise class storage provider. You see here, this is actually a snapshot of their website from some years ago. So you see here, they say NearOnix enterprise grade cloud storage solutions. And they say specifically architectured for extremes of reliability, scalability, redundancy, and availability. Wow, that sounds really assuring, isn't it? Well, not exactly. That's actually after 2 weeks of this, after this snapshot was done, after 2 weeks, or after 30 days, I think, they published this statement. On October 1st, 2013, NearOnix voluntarily sought Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection in order to pursue our attention, whatever. So basically, they're declaring bankruptcy. And what they say to their customers is, by 15th of October, get out of my cloud. We are closing. So you have 2 weeks to get your data out and move it somewhere else. Unbelievable. Well, maybe this sounds like a simple task, but can you really, and how quickly can you redeploy a petabytes of data? Well, I guess it will not be that fast, at least. Well, another interesting example when you talk about loss of data, it's this case. Maybe you don't have time whatsoever to take your data out of a cloud storage provider. This is, of course, infamous case with megaupload.com. Of course, this was regarding the protection of the rights of the film producers and music writers and so on. So it's about intellectual property, of course. But megaupload.com was used for some other stuff as well, not only for stolen movies and pirated software and stuff like that. It was also to store data, even sometimes corporate data. If you don't know, by the way, that's the largest, the biggest loss of data in the human history. More than 25 petabytes of data were completely lost after closure of that cloud storage provider. Well, so let's now move to the main risks. We see the history. I can give you tons of examples regarding this. We can spend a whole month describing different scenarios and different incidents related to the cloud providers. We had one recently with the Skype was not working. Again, Amazon was not working for a certain period of time. And we have this everyday, basically, situation. Amazon, not Amazon, but Microsoft Azure, for instance, it's terrible in maintaining their services, basically. And they have the huge, the biggest downtime compared to the rest of the cloud providers, like compared to Google Drive, to Google and to Amazon. But anyway, let's go now, focus now on security issues with cloud computing, basically. So what causes cloud nightmares, really? So first of all, data breaches. That's something that you see can happen. Some cloud providers can be hacked, and companies are reasonably, afraid of this because this is possible. Even the cloud provider can be very big, like code spaces, as an example. This still can be hacked, and data breach can happen. Yahoo is another example of data breach. So many personal data get leaked and hacked and published in hacker websites. Hijacking of accounts. This is also kind of a concern because if somebody is able to overtake an account, that's your problem to solve, basically. Well, cloud provider can give you some ways to manage your accounts more efficiently, to secure them, but it's up to you as a user, or it's up to the organization to properly manage accounts in the cloud. Still, if this is a compromise, of course, this can be used for malicious and nefarious purposes. Insider threat. You remember this case with Amazon that we discussed? This was kind of a user error type of incident, but imagine if he is really malicious in his intent. If his evilness was working correctly, he can do a lot of damage to all the customers of Amazon, for instance. So people are generally strange animals, and they can do a lot of damage if they have a proper, let's say, motivation behind. We have a terrorism now, the terrorist problem. We have a national, war. We have a cyber warfare situation between, let's say, Russia, America. So this is actually very possible to happen. Of course, malware injection type of attack on application layer of the cloud provider, software service provider, for instance, on another layer of the cloud tiers. This is also possible. Abuse of cloud services, yes, sure, this can happen as well. Insecure APIs, very common problem, by the way, very common problem, because our companies, we want to be connected. We want to use clouds, not only one cloud, we want to connect with other cloud, and we want to exchange data from our system to the cloud. So this is why we need APIs. Well, sometimes these APIs are not really well protected, and this can actually introduce another level of risk to the user of the cloud providers. Denial of service, I think that's pretty much obvious. You saw what can happen with this Mirai botnet, what actually this caused as a consequence. And this is a more managerial problem here, insufficient due diligence of cloud provider. This means that we basically, as organizations or as users, we just assume that the cloud provider has security capabilities in place, but in reality, we are not verifying that. We are not going through an audit of the cloud. Maybe it's not physical audit of a cloud provider. It doesn't have to be like this, but at least we have to make some steps in order to make sure and ensure our managers that this cloud services actually have enough security controls in place, and this can be at least decent level of security is there to protect our data. And of course, data loss, again, something really tangible, and it happens, as you can see from our examples. So what is the therapy here for our nightmares? So let's have a look here, what we actually can do in order to mitigate the risk of using a cloud computing, really, and let's say making us more, let's say, less scared from this nightmares, really. So first of all, I'm sorry. First of all, you should start with a very simple question. Mr. Cloud Provider, how do you enable my security strategy? What you can do actually, what we can do for me to secure my business processes in my company? Or in other words, what do you do and what do I have to do with your services in order my company, if you're using cloud computing, will be safe and protected? What we can do, really. So, and also, do you enable me to do what I need to do from security perspective, of course? So do you allow me to implement some additional level of controls, some additional protection mechanisms that can actually mitigate even further the risks of outsourcing everything into the cloud, basically? Very, very important question to ask. So let's have a look on that. What we should be looking for in a cloud provider. What is important for us from security perspective to see if some cloud providers are offering our services? First of all, we start complementation of the job roles. So we will discuss this not only about separation of duties here, although that's an element of complementation of the job roles, but also we need to make sure that people are not concentrated, the personnel of this cloud provider, first of all, does it have enough people in place or personnel that can maintain their services? And secondly, are these people shared with the shared responsibilities? Because in security, sharing responsibilities is sometimes not the right thing to do. We'll discuss this further in a while. Well-defined security policies. If the company provider, if the cloud provider, it's really reliable, they should be having in place a comprehensive set of policies and procedures for cybersecurity, dictating what they should be doing and how they are doing it. I'm not saying that they should be disclosing to you proprietary information about their security defenses, but at least you should be made aware of yourself whether they have this in place or not. Reviewable audits. If the cloud provider says, listen, man, I'm certified under 27001 standard, this means basically that you should be able to review what the third-party auditors were being actually did with this. Most of these big companies, big cloud providers, they are providing this to their customers as a level of, as a kind of assurance that their systems being properly audited and controlled. The ability to inspect by yourself or audit the cloud provider. Well, sometimes this can maybe not will happening. It depends on how big your company is, but maybe just ask, and they will be allowing you to have a look on that. By the way, every company can do a pen test on the cloud service. Amazon allowing this, Microsoft is allowing this, Google is allowing this. So basically, you just have to send them the request, and you can do your pen test against their services, which is kind of a good thing to have. Well-defined contractual language, which means that security and privacy, addressing security concerns and privacy. Now with the GDPR coming in Europe, that's very important. Well-defined disaster recovery and business continuity policy process. Normally the big guys are saying we have that, and they're trying to describe this to you in order to make sure that you feel confident with their disaster recovery capabilities. Configuration management process. Do they have a configuration management process in place? Are they practicing this configuration management, or they're relying on pure luck here? Patch management, of course, as you can see with the not Petya example, it's again about patching here. It's about applying security patch in Microsoft Windows operating system, but the same rules should apply also for the cloud provider, and they should be following these golden standards in security. Well-defined and documented APIs, definitely. Security in development process should be also part of their offering. I mean, they have to be proving that they have that in place, and security in operational processes as well. So let's have a kind of a more closer look, more detailed look on what actually they should have in place. Complementarization of job roles. Clear separation between DevOps, between development team and operations team. Clearly, that's very vital and very important. Well-defined security policies, they should be having in place data security policy, backup security and disaster recovery policy, key management, encryption key management and rotation policies, access grants, revocation of access rights, incident response, admin access. This should be in place for every cloud provider. What else we have? Reviewable audits, like ISO 27, for instance, SaaS, or some specific audit framework that is very similar, very specific to your environment, for instance. Boris audit and bar downstairs, for instance. So that also should be reviewable, because in different geography we have different standards and different frameworks for implementing security, controls. So basically, this is different in different countries and different continents. So makes sense to review also things that are actually not relevant to your environment, because this is American type of a company provided. Most of them, they are American based, so they have these specific standards there. Well, the ability to inspect audit provider. So you often don't get this normally. They are refusing to give you this capability normally, but at least you can try. Just ask them whether you can audit them or inspect their facilities, for instance. Especially in cases that they don't have external audit. That's very suspicious, by the way, but that's something you can do if you just make an audit. Even if they have external audit, actually outside audit, there will be some questions that maybe are not covered. Maybe you have some more specific requirements for security that are not being actually audited from external auditing company. So it's important actually to have that in your mind and ask them as well. So if they are allowing you to, you just randomly check samples from document procedures and so on and so forth. Well, for the providers, they're not normally allowing this too much because it's a nightmare to manage. It's a nightmare to manage. Imagine a cloud provider with thousands and thousands of users and customers is receiving requests for an audit for each and every customer. Well, obviously they cannot cope with this. They will not be able to handle all these requests. So again, this depends on the size of your organization, but at least you can try. At least you can try. Especially for software as a service companies. No, not especially for that. Also for infrastructure as a service kind of a type of a service that you get. That's very important as well, especially for that. Legal, contractual language. This is more legal stuff here, but consult your legal department because some concerns should be addressed properly. Security and privacy, definitely. Well, they should be agreed properly. You should not be just clicking, yes, I agree with your terms and conditions. That maybe sometimes that's the case because you cannot go with Google and discuss their privacy protection policy. This can be done by your government or by European Commission or European Union. But, for more smaller providers, yes, you can do that. What security privacy services will be provided? Penalties, refunds to failure to comply with these requirements. Most of these guys, they try to comply with with most of the regulations on their markets. So basically, you have just to make sure that they are, having this in place. They have to have a regular European privacy policy. In the future, next year, they should be able to comply with GDPR requirements. What else we have? Disaster recovery and business continuity requirements. We need to have a well-defined policy and process, documented regular testing of their designated plans. Success, how is measured, whether the test was successful or not. Documented recovery time objective, recovery point objective, financial impact calculation, guarantee in contract. That's a rare situation, by the way. What else? Configuration management process. How the provider know what they have in the first place? Is there inventory of assets? How they are managing their assets? Are they advertising kind of a specific technology they'll be using for the asset management? Just ask these people. Or I can give you a hint. You can not only ask, but you can check online whether they can have in a certain repository. It's called a website called Cloud Security Alliance website. They're publishing detailed information about the biggest cloud providers, not only the biggest, but the cloud providers, and what kind of security capabilities they have. They also publishes standards and requirements for cloud providers. So, how they know the cloud system is, the state of each system is managed. Patching, it's not only it's not only about patching, it's operationally how they are dealing with this. Of course, patch management is more than obvious. I'm not going to discuss this. But not only security, downtime is bad, as you can see specifically in cloud computing. Security in development process, it's about threat modeling, code guidelines, architectural reviews, code reviews, and outside assessment as well. They also can provide you this information if you ask them. Not everybody, of course, but still, that's possible. In operational point perspective, we are talking about threat modeling again, architectural review, deployment guidelines of security technology, outside assessments, repeatable process, documented process, patch management, backups, BCP, DR. All of these things should be part of their operational processes. Robust and well-defined documented APIs. This is something that everybody has. Maybe not well documented too much, but they have APIs, at least everybody. But you should search for good documentation regarding this. And because automation, as we discussed, it's a very important thing for us as companies. And this is how we should be using the cloud. This is why we are using clouds, to be more connected, to use more resources online, and to use multiple clouds at the same time. So again, it's not just in operations, it's also about security. What else? In summary, let's summarize here because we are moving ahead of time. Cloud providers, actually, if you think about conceptually, they have many common things with your current infrastructure. So you maybe should approach them the same way as you're evaluating your infrastructure. Well, it's not very important here. Issue is to know what you'll be getting before you get it. I think that most of the people are not realizing this problem. So they are rushing to the cloud, say cloud computing one more time. They rush into the cloud without considering the consequences. I've been part of a multinational company, one of the biggest multinational companies in the world, and they made a decision to go into a Google without considering the implication and security aspect of this. Of course, we suffered great consequences afterwards. So you should be able to know at least what you will be getting as a security before you go into that cloud. And, well, you should also be able to get this on a constant basis. What can help you is actually Cloud Control Matrix, so-called. This is our list of controls mapped to 27001, 27002, ISACA, COVID, PCI, NIST, Jericho Forum, so on and so forth. So basically, this is Cloud Security Alliance methodology, which is free to use, free to access on their website. You see this website is written here, https://cloudsecurityalliance.org. I strongly recommend to you guys to have a look on that website. They have a lot of interesting resources regarding security in the cloud. And not only that, you see here this consensus assessment initiative is a self-assessment from a cloud. So the cloud provider can actually voluntarily fill this questionnaire. In this questionnaire, you have a list of all the controls that you need to have, technical and managerial controls for cloud computing, but also they can be certified. So this is a third-party audit of a cloud computing cloud service provider. Okay, so basically that's one of the most important resources that you can use and you should use in securing the cloud computing. All right. So that's the part related to the having the nightmares in our cloud computing. So we have some minutes left to discuss now the certified cloud security professional. Let me start another presentation now. Just a second to load this. It's a different PowerPoint. A second. So now let's move to the certification part, which is very important as well. Because all the things that we discuss, of course, that's very, very high level. With the certified cloud security professional, you can be really, really, really well, you'll be able to understand very well the security in the cloud computing. This is actually, certification was developed by ISC Square in cooperation with Cloud Security Alliance. So basically, these guys are on the same page, definitely. So, what we will have here, what are kind of a concept will be actually discussed during that training? Architectural concepts of cloud computing, design of cloud computing, cloud data security, how to protect data, it's also encryption, computerization, isolation, hardware, software, everything that's related to this. Cloud platform and infrastructure security, cloud application security, operations of cloud computing, and legal and compliance. So basically, this is everything that is related to cloud computing. Course materials will have the guidelines. We'll have a book from ISC Square, which we'll have during the training. The training will be in the form of instructor-led training, so it will not be online, it will be physical. And I'll be leading this course for you guys, I hope. So that's the format of that training. So you have the book, you have some other learning materials. We'll be discussing this right now. What are you to expect from this? What you can expect from this course? Well, what you can expect is to have gain a detailed knowledge about everything related to cloud security, absolutely everything. It's very detailed, it's very comprehensive. What I do normally is also I'm including some practical elements in my trainings, so it's not only pure theory. We'll be playing around with some cloud providers, we'll be playing around with cloud security as well. We'll not be hacking clouds because obviously this will cause us some problems and we can end up in the news. So we're not doing any cloud hacking stuff, but we'll do some practical security in the cloud. And what you can expect and what kind of challenges you can have during the cloud computing. Of course, we already discussed that during the previous session, that we have this problem with downtime, we have problems with security in general, with protection of data, and so on and so forth. What are the benefits if you become certified? Well, what actually IC2 can give you after you became certified is a IC2 journal. It's kind of a magazine. As well, a journal, it's not a magazine, it's a different type of communication, but includes the most hot topics in the cybersecurity area. IC2 magazine, actually, it's very high quality type of a magazine, focused on security, of course. Global resource guide for security professionals. Security talk, these are actually webinars, access to think tanks, and webinars as well. Safe and secure online program. It's a community kind of activity from IC2. You can participate. This is about protecting innocent people in the web, like children and other vulnerable members of our society from cybersecurity attacks. And some additional benefits can be obtained, of course. You can have a discount for major conferences. You can have a 50% discount for the literature provided by IC2. So it's kind of by books that they are publishing. So it's kind of have a lot of benefits, actually. And of course, credential verification as well. What are the maintenance requirements? Of course, like every certification coming from IC2, not only, you should be able to maintain your certification if you get certified, of course, by paying your maintenance fees, of course, and submitting 90 credits over a 3-year period. So minimum you have 30 years continuous points, education points that you should be collecting. How this is collected, basically, you are, let's say, participating in a conference. Maybe it's a vendor, also event-driven event, doesn't matter. And if you are there for 1 hour, you get 1 point. Reading a book can also give you continuing education credits, or you are, let's say, having another training for cybersecurity, get more credits, let's say, for a certification course. This can go up to 40 credits. So that's the way to maintain, in briefly, your certification. What about testing? Well, the testing is it's not like a CSP, it's like a shorter one. It's not 250 questions, only 125 questions covered for the 6 CSP domains, common body of knowledge. 4-hour exam, multiple choice, cognitive questions. The passing grade, as you can see, 700 out of 1,000 points, which is actually 70%. And you can go and register to exam directly on the IC2 portal, but that's after you go through the training, of course. Otherwise, it will be very difficult just to go for the exam immediately without studying anything, really. So what is the role of cloud security professional, really? Well, this is in-depth knowledge about and competency, including also hands-on experience, information security in general, and, of course, cloud computing. So this kind of a verification of your expertise, and this can be very beneficial for your organization because you'll be able to enhance and make more secure the use of a cloud computing and keeping the data secure in the cloud. The course objectives is actually trying to describe comprehensively everything related to cloud computing, including services, scalability, virtualization, storage, network, everything. Should be able to understand all these things, really, and architectural concept behind that cloud computing. What kind of controls you need to have in place and in cloud computing, like classification techniques, digital rights management, privacy of data, data rotation, deletion, archiving, event logging, chain of custody, non-repudiation, so on and so forth. A lot of other things as well will be part of it, and information security, information management, of course, information security, event management. Virtual and physical components as well, in cloud infrastructure, disaster recovery plans, business continuity, how to maintain business continuity in cloud, techniques, concept for identify critical system and recover data. Software development lifecycle in the cloud related to cloud computing, cloud software assurance and validation, using secure software controls, and program interfaces, APIs, application architecture in the cloud, everything, as course, and also availability through identity and access management solutions. As well, develop and implement, maintain physical and logical cloud infrastructure. Maybe you'll be delivering your own stuff. Best practice in monitoring and auditing, risk assessment in physical and logical cloud infrastructure. Privacy issues related to cloud computing. Ethical behavior, regulatory frameworks, legal requirements, investigative techniques, crime analysis, and evidence gathering method in the cloud, which is kind of an interesting topic to talk about, of course. So some student tips, if you want more, of course, you have to read and understand if you can download this for free from IC Square, or additional tools can be utilized on that website here, http://learnings.icsquare.org. What else? Some test-taking tips. Well, this applies basically for every exam that you go for cybersecurity, and not only. Positive attitude is important. You have to be very, that's clearly human motivation. Time management, that's very, very important. For every training that I have been through and certified myself, time management is crucial for successful examination. Read the question carefully. Don't rush. Don't try to assume anything. Just read them carefully and try to understand what exactly is asked from as a question. Many wrong answers are true statements. Sometimes, that's a good hint. Only change an answer if you're absolutely sure of original choice is incorrect. It's a very interesting statistic saying that in 90% of people who are changing their answers of the original question, of the original answer, they are making a mistake, 90%. So bear this in mind. And that's, I think, covering everything for today. I hope at least that this was kind of helpful for you guys. And of course, I'll be more than happy to deliver this training in Czech Republic and in Slovakia, of course. And that's very interesting training. I also inject some practical stuff inside, which makes it even more exciting. And not only it's exciting, it's crucial and absolutely fundamentally important for every organization in our cloud era that we are living in right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Boris. It was really very interesting. I have to tell you, I hope that the same experiences are from our attendees, webinar attendees, that even if I'm not very technically good technically in this field, it was very interesting for me as well. Okay, we have a few minutes to the end.
For questions, yes.
If you have some questions, please put them, and I will prepare some information. About training we are providing.
Okay, everything is clear.
Seems so.
Yeah.
Okay, some information, and we are going to close the webinar. First, we have scheduled the next CCSP instructor-led training in Prague, which will be led by Boris on the first week in September 4 to 8, and you are welcome. You're invited to to attend. And what we are providing? First, giveaway, namely giveaway. First, giveaway official books and guides. So it's something, it is compulsory. Second, all the refreshment and lunch vouchers, compulsory or regular. A new Horizon certificate of attendance. That is some basics each authorized provider is providing. And now there are some benefits only New Horizons is providing as giveaways. First, informal info security networking. So what we are organizing and inviting students attending our ILT or traditional classroom trainings, we're inviting them for informal info security networking at famous Prague pub on Wednesday. Training starts on Monday, early evening, and students and training attendees can meet CCSP instructor and New Horizons of Prague owner during the event, and there is a great opportunity to discuss about cybersecurity or other issues or points. Second, what we are providing, it is unique for New Horizons. We are providing training receipt, mean that if you think you need to attend the same official training once more, you can do it and no fee is needed. I think it is very good for some who is going or planning his or her exam and prefer to have prep period together with other guys or this instructor and to answer some question he or she has after completing first time training and after self-study. What do you mean? And the last one, it is proposal number 3 or giveaway number 3, but it is focusing more for organizations and for a small group of enrolled delegates. So we are providing 25% discount for 3 or more enrollments. It is great discount from the basic price, and I hope that this is another valuable giveaway you can earn. So first, it is informal InfoSec meeting. Second, it is training receipt, mean you can attend the same training once more time, no fees needed. And third, if you enroll 3 or more guys, you can earn 25% discount. So what say to the end? What are you waiting for? Enroll today and grab your giveaways now. So thank you. That's all from my side. If you have some questions, please put them to the chat box or ask via your mic. Any questions?
Thank you both. I don't have any questions today. Thank you very much for the presentation.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you.